Hi, my name is Randy, and I'd like to say hi to you, and especially you. Welcome to the Last Stop Podcast Shop. Welcome to all the fun festivities and frivolity that my regular listeners have come to love. Well, let's get started. I'm kind of pissed off this morning. I was watching, I don't know how old these YouTube videos are, but there was a guy I started watching who was ripping on Howard Stern, as well he should, because Howard, he kind of pissed all over podcasters. Even Adam Carolla, who he considers a friend, about his podcast. Because, you make no money, and he doesn't have the listenership he once had in terrestrial radio. Well, the way you make money in radio, if you want to become a broadcaster, you got to start at some Hickville radio station and make no money and build up a following. And then move on to the next radio station. That's what he basically did. Well, a lot of people, they're starting out as a podcaster. And many are pretty successful, those with a large YouTube following and generating ads and stuff like that. They're not making the coin that you're making with satellite radio. What was the original thing, a $500 million contract? I understand that Howard's always interested in how much money his guests are making, but he sure shuts up when they ask about his finances and all the things he has to pay for. Yeah, he just shit all over anybody who podcasts, and a lot of those podcasters probably were one-time fans of yours. And I don't know about that because of your content, but yeah, a lot of people probably were. And let me tell you something about Howard Stern that you may not know. Back when he was in terrestrial radio in New York, I believe. It was New York. His radio show was brought to Minneapolis, St. Paul area in Minnesota, where he was put on the K-Bob or Bob radio station at the time. And he was going head-to-head with one of the more famous, one of the best radio morning shows in the country as far as ratings go. Tom Bernard's show. At first, I guess Howard grabbed some ratings from him, but over time, Tom Bernard kicked his ass in the ratings, and radio station with Howard Stern changed their format, and he was dumped. And one thing I heard Howard say, this is practically a direct quote, if I remember it right, and I think I do. He goes, "Why do people in the Midwest not like me?" Well, there's probably several reasons. I used to watch Howard's E! Show. I don't know, if some people might consider you a podcaster by allowing some of your stuff to go to YouTube, so you can get more people to subscribe to satellite radio. And I guess a lot of people, what this one guy said, a lot of people that subscribe to satellite radio don't even listen to your program. So maybe it's time for him to... And then this caller wanted to talk about Artie Lang, and I liked Artie Lang on his show at one time, and he just went off on her, called her the C word and everything else under the sun, and she made some comment about his current wife, Beth, about, boy, did he get angry. He told her to get off of satellite radio and not listen to his show, and called her every name under the sun. I guess he doesn't care anymore about having a listenership because he's just so rude to people. It's kind of funny that Artie Lang and what's his name? I can't think of his name right now, but they were talking about what Howard said about Ellen DeGeneres' dancing during her shows, and how they made fun of that and her man pants, and maybe I've watched the Rachel Maddow show. I think she wears the same outfit. She must have about 20 of the same outfit that she wears on the show. But, they talked about how Howard was kind of hypocritical, but because now he's trying to be all nicey nice. And I guess Jennifer Aniston invited him to her wedding. And all Howard could do on his radio show was make fun of some of the things at the wedding. And he even spoke at it. I don't get that, but oh well. And then on my Twitter, I'm following William Shatner, who I wrote him a real respectful tweet, and he just seems to respond to all the people that have negative things and trolling him and commenting about Rose McGowan, who I followed just to see what she had to say about that prick Harvey Weinstein or Stein, whatever. But Harvey Wienerstein, I'm just wondering, is there any woman out there, actor, female actress, that he didn't try to sexually harass? I guess he would have people tell these women that he wanted a private meeting in his hotel room. That ought to be a big clue. And he'd sometimes be in the bathtub and this guy. I guess when you have that much money, you think you can get away with anything. About this Rose McGowan, she's trying. I watched Charmed, and I enjoyed that. She's like trying to be a one-woman army against the Hollywood elite that support the rape culture, the casting couch, and she's taken on Ben Affleck too. Well, he's got his own problems about groping women too, which is pleasing Jennifer Garner and their kids. But it's just nuts. I got rid of a lot of people on Twitter. I know I'm trying to promote my podcast on Twitter a lot, but some of these celebrities, I think Twitter should enforce a policy. Once you start following somebody, a celebrity or not, they should have to follow you. If we have to read some of your stuff that sometimes is so cryptic, you don't even know what they're talking about, and when you follow somebody, that they automatically have to follow you, so you can get your agenda out like they do. That would be my suggestion for an upgrade to Twitter. On another note, in my last podcast, talked about a guy who criticized the Blue Yeti Pro for picking up a lot of unwanted noise. Now this guy, he was praising his MXL 4000. And he was sitting quite a ways away from it, and it was good audio. But I've noticed something with the Blue Yeti Pro, that the gain knob is extremely sensitive, because I adjusted it upwards a very minute amount at one time, and it did pick up some extraneous noise. Unfortunately, I have to have my refrigerator fairly close by, which I wish I didn't, but this is the way that it's kind of configured. I kind of got a bare bones setup, but hopefully to expand it someday, to have a mixing board and all the fancy doodads, XLR connection. Right now I'm using a USB connection right into the computer. And then this guy said, well, get a Bluey then. I don't know how much I drop off when I lean back. Mostly what you'd probably hear is my chair squeaking. It does have a little squeak to it. But now I'm moving a little bit forward and seeing how the recording is changing. Watching my Audacity right now. But that's it for now. And now for my next story for your consideration. Next up on the podcast docket, I have a story about, it was one heck of a wake-up call. A New York State trooper inexplicably transmitted a raunchy rap song over Port Authority police radios at LaGuardia Airport, angering PAPD officers and sparking 2 investigations, the Daily News learned. More than 50 PAPD cops and state troopers were subjected to the 1996 underground rap song Put It In Your Mouth by Akinle. I butchered that name, but it's spelled really strange. For roughly a minute on September 8th, sources said. The song about oral sex tied up everyone's radios, blocking actual emergency. One report about the incident said the transmission broadcast vulgar lyrics and had tied up radio transmission for all PAPD officers, causing a safety issue, the source said. Female Port Authority police officers were among those forced to listen to the song's denigrating lyrics, according to Paul Nunziato, president of the Port Authority Police Benevolent Association. A trooper jeopardizing trooper safety on their frequency would be a serious problem, Nunziato said, but for Governor Cuomo to deploy troopers at Port Authority officials and force the Port Authority to grant them access to PAPD radio frequency, while they disregard basic radio discipline, jeopardizing the lives of the public and members is inexcusable. The Port Authority investigated the blue broadcast and traced this transmission back to a PAPD radio that was signed out to the state trooper for the day, the source said. It didn't really say whether the trooper was reprimanded or what happened there. Maybe Harvey Wienerstein, douchebag, whatever. A ton of other names you could probably call this guy. I kind of wonder, I got a story here about him also, and listening to all the stories coming out about him, was there any female he didn't come in contact with that he did not sexually harass in some way? I've heard of him trapping women in alone, and they didn't want to undress for him, so he just jerked it off into a potted plant. Hopefully that didn't kill the plant. But and then they went back to the table, and it was like nothing happened. They were at a restaurant, and the people said they had to leave. So, oh yeah, Harvey goes, give us a call next week. And but he might face criminal charges after an Italian model and actress accused him of raping her in February 2013 in interviews with the Los Angeles Times and LAPD detectives. The woman even showed him photos of her children to try to deter him, she said. Wienerstein, douchebag, has been publicly accused of sexual assault and harassment by numerous women. Numerous meaning, 100 to 500? Or I heard in another podcast that some guy was riding a train in New York where he met a woman that they started chatting or whatever, and she said she worked for the Wienerstein douchebag's company, and that she was really tired of the sexual harassment that he was giving to her. And so this guy offered her a Xanax pill, and she took it, and the guy said she talked like she was just ambivalent toward it. It happened so much, but hopefully he will spend some jail time. Let's see. It was still within the statute of limitations. The unnamed woman said she saw Wienerstein douchebag at the 8th annual Los Angeles Italia Film, Fashion, and Art Fest in Los Angeles 4 years ago. Wienerstein douchebag showed up at her hotel and invited himself up to her room, the woman said. She rebuffed his advances, but he allegedly showed up at her door anyway. Wienerstein douchebag got in and promised he wouldn't have sex with her. Once inside, he asked me questions about myself, but soon became very aggressive and demanding and kept asking to see me naked, the woman told the Los Angeles Times. He grabbed me by the hair and forced me to do something I did not want to do. He then dragged me to the bathroom and forcibly raped me. The LAPD confirmed that it is investigating the allegations. I hate this because it gives men all over a bad name, a really terrible name. It's a wonder that 90% of all women don't become lesbians because of things they've endured. It's not just him. It's a thing of power with him, I think. And how creepy, too, that if a woman doesn't want to be with you, what is the point? I don't see the gratification. I mean, wouldn't you rather have a woman consent? Wouldn't that be more enjoyable? Like, this guy would, have women come into his hotel room, and he'd be in the bathtub and asking other actresses to watch him shower, and just really creepy stuff. But hopefully, Rose McGowan's kind of taken to Twitter and Rose's army. Well, I hope they shed some light on this. And also guys that send unsolicited dick pics to women. What's the point there? Passive-aggressive act. Because I've heard there's a traveling art show that's sponsored by some musician that all it is a wall of framed unsolicited dick pics, where some of these people were using items to show how big their junk was. Oh, wouldn't that be embarrassing to see your dick pic on the wall in some art show? How humiliating it would be to find out that yours is not the biggest one on the wall. But yeah, that too, that's just creepy. And what can you say? And the stuff I said about Howard Stern, the stuff he's had women do consensually, I guess. Bringing up he's had segments where they've had anal ring toss with women. And I guess they agree. Some of these women agree to it. So what do you say about that? How rude he is, and possibly he's going to go away soon. I think he's considering retiring. So that was that story. Hopefully Harvey Wienerstein douchebag will get his jail time. And next up, we'll have something completely different. Next up on the podcast docket, I have some audio from Beyond the Grave. This is an audio clip of Adolf Hitler giving his opinion on the new Star Trek series Discovery that is only shown on CBS All Access. And I will advise that there is some adult language in this clip because Adolf is very angry. But I will do my best to interpret this clip. Information has arrived for Star Trek Discovery. There is a trailer for it here. It's going to be a prequel to the original series and can only be seen on CBS All Access if you pay for it. I will be able to watch it on Netflix. No, you live in the USA. It's on Netflix in other countries, but not here in CBS only. Hitler looks disturbed with his Parkinson's and taking off his glasses at this point. If you thought Enterprise was better than TNG, DS9, Voyager, get out. What do you mean it's a prequel? And I have to subscribe to a shitty service? F, no one wanted another prequel. I wanted a sequel series. I grew up with TNG, DS9, and Voyager. Think of all the guest characters from the TNG era that could have been in 7 of 9, Jake Sisko, Will Wheaton, but the CGI and special effects. Fuck the special needs effects. It might be good, give it a chance. They had one chance, they were fucking it up. Enterprise was a prequel. It only lasted 4 seasons. We might not get another chance at a new Star Trek series. Make it a sequel, for F's sakes. Set 20 years after Voyager. Think of all the guest characters. Since it is prequel, they're going to F it up canon. All I wanted is that it be set after Voyager. I wanted to see how the Federation is doing, how the technology in the Federation has advanced. Not this prequel shit. They are now limited to the timeline and are going to F up canon. The technology. Will props look better than Voyager? It won't make any sense. Enterprise might get a season 5 on Netflix. Well, at least it is something, but could have been so much more. Fine, and maybe I can move back to Germany and watch it on Netflix with fine German women and beer. I can take my anger out on some people. As you well know. But that is Adolf Hitler's views on the new Star Trek series that is on CBS All Access only.
Im Süden hat der Gegner Zossen genommen und stößt auf Stahnsdorf vor. Der Feind operiert jetzt am nördlichen Stadtrand.
The last little bit of audio with the German senior advisor talking with Hitler. He was complaining about that Star Trek Discovery is filmed way too damn dark. And also, he was unimpressed that Hitler even mentioned the words for the person Will Wheaton even being considered to return to Star Trek. Will Wheaton? Seriously? I think he's better suited for a foil for Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory. I guess the new show, Sheldon as a child isn't doing so hot. I think the older Sheldon is annoying enough that we've gotten enough of him. But I did learn something on Amazon Prime that Netflix doesn't really provide when you watch a movie. You've got stuff on the information on the stars. I was watching Star Trek 6. For those of you who are fans of the good old days, before J.J. Abrams tried to make it Star Wars, this was Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. And for those of you who remember that movie, remember that they had a supply of Romulan ale on board for their dinner with the Klingon delegation, with Chancellor Gorkin, before he got assassinated. And you can go and buy your version of Romulan ale. All it was blue Kool-Aid. I thought that was hilarious. I don't know which flavor of I haven't had Kool-Aid since I was a kid. I don't know which flavor would give you the exact color of the Kool-Aid they used on the movie set. And also there was Christopher Plummer as General Chang, did a great job. They said in the information that the bolts that were holding his eye patch on actually had a Klingon insignia on them. They should have made them a little larger so we could actually tell that, but in the movie I could not see anything on those bolts. And also, it must have all those egos and stuff to deal with and worrying about every little thing. And I guess Nichelle Nichols did not want to say the line, "Guess who's coming to dinner?" of the Klingon delegation that was coming over to dine with Captain Kirk. That line was given to Walter Koenig, Chekhov. And let's see, there was a lot of information about Shakespeare and the Klingon language and all this, and I had to go through a Klingon language camp to make it sound right. Da mache. I'm learning a few more Klingon words just for this podcast. Yes, the Undiscovered Country. Well, they could call this the Undiscovered Podcast. Another trivia fact on the movie The Undiscovered Country, Christian Slater, the actor, had a little cameo bit on that movie where he was questioning George Takei while he was sleeping about the whereabouts of the Starship Enterprise. And it's kind of funny. They, in an interview, I guess with the BBC, I believe, that for that scene, he actually wore the pants that William Shatner had wore in one of the other Star Trek movies. Budget saving there. And Christian Slater said it was an honor to get into William Shatner's pants. I thought that was so hilarious. And he got $750 for the little bit part he had as a crewman on the Excelsior. And he said that he had that check framed. But it is, I know Jason Alexander's also been on Star Trek. He was on Star Trek Voyager. And he was done up in prosthetics. You couldn't tell it was him, but it was him. The episode was called Think Tank. It was a good episode. So, well, that's probably gonna be it for talking about Star Trek for your older folks that don't want to give up what was, pay for a shitty service for one program. I've heard that at the highest level you pay for CBS All Access, you still see commercials, which read or whatever, but you're not supposed to see. They can't have it like Netflix. That's why, I don't know why, they got approved for a second season. Well, congrats to them. And one of the complaints a lot of people had on YouTube about the new Star Trek Discovery series was there wasn't really a likable character in the show. And I haven't seen an episode, I must admit, so I can't speak totally about it. I'm sure I would enjoy some of the special effects. And one guy complained that in one episode, there were a super ton of explosions, and they don't really there's one woman on the bridge who has something that looks like it might have been a Borg implant, but that on the side of her head. a metal strip, and they don't really explain that. So, but I'll get on to more. Well, and I'm still trying to figure out which way I should take this podcast sometimes. In order to get new subscribers, I've promoted the shit out of this program in different ways. Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, where else? Google Plus. And then you listen to all these advice videos from all these so-called experts on podcasting. And they say, oh, Libsyn is where you should be. iTunes is the place you should be. I tried to get on Libsyn at one time. I found their interface to be very... it wasn't user-friendly at all for anybody who doesn't mess with code, who likes to point and click and be able to find shit on their home page. But I did see some interesting stats. The next guy was probably right. They do have a better stat function than what I currently have. They used to have a global map which could kind of pinpoint where something was coming from, but they don't have that. And the advice I got from Podomatic was, use Firefox as your internet browser. So I tried that, and he said that you're supposed to see the map with Firefox. No, it doesn't bring up the map. And I don't know when they're going to bring it back, but they said they would. So, and what's kind of funny about Howard Stern, he kind of says that the reason he had strippers and prostitutes on his program for all those years was to jab at the FCC and all that. And now he can, at least if he doesn't want to retire, he can do whatever he wants. And he said he could even have sex with his wife while he was on the air, and they wouldn't do anything about it. You know what's great? I could do that too. I'd probably interview him over the phone so it wouldn't look like a Harvey W. douchebag type thing. But, it would be kind of interesting to find out what hell strippers have to go through during their work shift at times. And what you kind of... all these people giving advice on your show. On this one expert says, shorter shows are not the ones that get the best subscribers or likes, ratings, plays, whatever. That if your topics are interesting enough, they will listen more to a longer show. So this is going to be a little longer show. And I haven't got a set schedule. It's probably one of the biggest blunders I've made in trying to get this show a little more popular. And I was listening to kind of a documentary on Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and all the shit they went through to get to where they are. It must be such a rush to have all those people singing along to your songs at certain points. And it's kind of funny that Stevie Nicks, she was friends with him for a super long time, and also said that if Tom had asked her to become a regular band member, that she would have probably done it, left Fleetwood Mac. And she didn't have that great of things to say about Lindsey Buckingham. I don't know what was it, but her and Tom have had their demons too. And some psychiatrists, being bipolar, I can kind of identify with a little bit of that. But she said that he prescribed, I believe it was clonazepam. I know there's some PAMs out, PHAMS, as far as anti-anxiety type meds. And she said, I could have done so much during the 8 years of her life. She did nothing. She said, I could have had kids. I could have made more records and music. And she didn't say whether she was taking that medication all along and didn't even question it, or she took it a few times and got a long-term illness from that. I don't know. And now she's touring with Chrissy Hynde group, The Pretenders, and they both do Stop Dragging My Heart Around, which is, I listened to a little bit of that, and it's just not the same without Tom. They do a good job. I think it was better with Tom in it. But unfortunately, somebody tried to kill Tom Petty when he lived in Encino. They put an accelerant someplace on his house and started his house on fire. He was on the floor crawling out to stay in the last available air, and his family got out okay, which was kind of strange. He went on tour like 2 days after his house burned down. That day, I guess, he had his family stay at a hotel, and he said he came there in jeans and no shoes and a t-shirt. Like these actresses too, the prices you pay, the Chris Farley dying way too young, and the drugs and stuff that were available to Stevie Nicks and Tom Petty, and he sort of hints, but he was married twice. There was a thing that they said that he kind of made the comment that there were times that he had something going on with Stevie. So, but who knows? But a great rock band. Since it was bipolar and a lot of past, I went through my 80s phase where I listened to a lot of music. I didn't listen to a lot of the currents. I was a big fan of The Who. And then after a while, Pete Townsend went off as rocker and made this statement. He wanted everyone to call him Loretta. And all these people complaining about Trump. Yeah, on my Twitter account, I think people only respond and tweet when they're pissed off. And like William Shatner, I think he only answers people that are trolling shippers. Calls them shippers. I don't understand what that term exactly means. That's what my suggestion to Twitter is. Once you follow somebody, they automatically are following you. And so you can get your agenda out just as well as they can, whether you're promoting a charity, which a lot of them do. And that's fine. I've promoted this shit on Facebook too, out of this podcast. And I've boosted my posts and get over 1,000 people, and it's just not enough page interaction, like listening to the program or subscribing, to make it worth my while. But then you come down to, maybe I suck. That's a possibility also. But I'm trying to do better. I think I've improved over the number of podcasts I've done. I remember my early ones being quite terrible technically, but some of that was, I used more effects. And some of that was pretty funny if you look in my back catalog. Well, the other day I had somebody from Canada pick up on one of my older podcasts, which was I thought kind of unusual, and wasn't one I thought was one of my better ones, but you listen through the whole thing according to the stats, and it was kind of nice. I received a thank you note because I thanked my UK listeners from the Westminster area of London. I think I have either a listener or some listeners. I thanked them, and they sent me a thank you Twitter for that comment. So it's tough business. Yeah, you gotta be on Libsyn, you gotta be on iTunes, you gotta be on Patreon, They don't do nothing to promote the people that create stuff. You gotta be on YouTube. Well, that's another thing. I tried their limitations. I don't know how that people, there's supposedly a way to upload an MP3 up to 50 megabytes of info, which I do have some podcasts that come under that number by quite a bit, in the 30s. And trying to put a static image on there and learn how to put like a active waveform on it. But it keeps coming back that your info is too long, it can't be posted. So I don't know what's going on there. Well, yeah, that's the thing with this thing to get it. Well, should I become more profane and say fuck every 2 words or any other curse word? And that's the way the world's going. That's the way George Carlin went. You go on Amazon Prime, you can see a ton of George Carlin specials. And when in his early days as a comedian, he wore a suit and tie. In my dissipated youth, before Ellen DeGeneres blew up on her current talk show, she did a show called These Friends of Mine back in the 90s. I thought she was funny, and I didn't even think about the lesbian thing that would become such a big deal, or having the whole country being able to have gay marriage. There's nothing wrong with that. Seinfeld. Nothing, how does that go? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think I was one of the people that I think she decided after that show she did in Minneapolis to quit stand-up. You know why? It's kind of funny. I went to her show because I heard a couple specials. I thought they were funny. And I think what she was talking about was she did this bit where she called God and asked what was the purpose of having fleas. I mean, they do nothing. I guess she couldn't get a straight answer from God. But the way the seating went, unfortunately, I sat in the wrong seat at first. Stage right, I was seated. People came, oh, you gotta move. And of course, I had to move to the front where my section, I was the only one there. There's one seat. There was no one around me. And when she did that bit, I was not laughing because I had heard it before on one of her specials. And she looked at me and kind of stalled for a little bit. Like, why isn't he laughing? It was kind of a high point. And then she quit stand up the next day because I don't know if I was frowning but she stalled and looked at me, and I'm sitting in the most conspicuous seat in the house at the State Theater in Minneapolis. That was around the time I was doing my own stand-up. And I got a compliment from the paid comedian there. I can't think of his name, but I know he's the brother of Dan Cole, the Common Man, who did. I don't know if he still does a radio show on KFan. I liked his show, and his brother was a stand-up comedian, and he was the headliner at one of these, or the Twin Cities contest. It was called the funniest person in the Twin Cities, or the funniest, I don't know, funniest comedian. And I lost out. I won my first round, where you had to keep it within 3 minutes. And that's where I got the death stare from one woman. And I know exactly which joke it was. It was the one where I said that this was when Vanna White was quite a bit younger. And I said that she was trying to decide whether baby was she was wondering if the father was Bob Barker or Bill Clinton. I think that was a joke I got the compliment on from Dan Cole's brother. I can't think of his first name for the life of me. But I felt so good after that. Actually getting a compliment from an accomplished comedian. And then this other guy said, "Well, you're trying to be like Seinfeld." No, I don't yell my stuff. Maybe that was what he saw that I was doing. They said I was a little low in my volume at the time. So maybe that, in a way, was a compliment also. If they complimented me that I was trying to be like Seinfeld. Seinfeld is a pretty accomplished comedian and actor, which I wish he'd bring back his show, but probably I got more money than God, and I've been there, done that. So it most likely will not. It won't return. That was a funny show in its day. I also saw a special of his on Netflix. And what was the name of the club? It was a club in New York that a lot of popular comedians got their start. So, but now I since I've got a face for radio, I trying out this podcast deal. I've said before that some of this podcast is going to be serious and some of it's going to be funny. And because of my bipolar, my memory is so patchy about when I was going through bipolar mania, where you don't do things. Wow. You see things, you hear things, and you do things that aren't normally your behavior. And also it affects your memory of events. But I do know that I know there's people with other worse problems than me, but this is my show, so I talk about myself once in a while. I was hoping to get this podcast out a lot sooner, but I've had a lot of issues come up with my phone and computer, health-wise, and dealing with that, and I haven't wanted to take up the microphone in a while. But hopefully things will get straightened out where I can crank out a few more. So I'm going to end this program. And I'd like to thank you, and especially you for listening to this episode of Infotainment. And I will leave you with a thought from, what would I call her, a personality, Vic the Terror. It was kind of a nice sentiment. You see so many few nice sentiments on Twitter, which just seems to be a lot of anger between some celebrities and people who ask them dumb questions or say stupid things about them. This thought was, your dreams and hopes are your own. Don't let the naysayers win. Just find the people or stick close to the people that are supportive of your dreams and hopes. So I thought that was nice. And I also thought about the tragedy in Las Vegas and all those victims. That 1 minute they were listening to Jason Aldean country music concert, and the next minute they were listening to an awesome Tom Petty concert. And there's so many you could add to that list of performers like Johnny Cash, Glenn Campbell, and so many others. But I know she will never hear this program. And for some reason, I'm paying a lot of money for this service to regulate my computer's security and virus and do work on my phone, which acted up. And now my computer grinds away almost constantly. So I'm going to have to move it somewhere. It never used to do that. So I'm going to have to move it down further or something. But this episode is dedicated to the great Season 6 and Vic the Terror. So, bye-bye, folks. Hope you enjoyed the program.
After you, I know